And hello, everyone, and thank you so much for spending your afternoon with us. My name is Abby Lee, and I work on SNCLA's national staff as a Communications and Partnerships Senior Manager. We're excited that you can join us for this webinar sponsored by the Sugar Association titled Real Sugar, STEM Materials to Aid in the Classroom. I'm excited to introduce to you our presenter for the afternoon, Maria Scott from the Sugar Association team. Be sure to stay until the end of the session so that you can get that survey link, because we will be giving away two $50 Amazon gift cards. But without further ado, I'm happy to pass it over to Maria.
Yes, welcome everyone. Thank you for taking time out of your evenings to join us in this busy season. I'm sure many of you are just in the first couple weeks of school or will be starting after the holiday weekend. So appreciate you taking the time to join. I'm Maria Scott. I work in scientific affairs at the Sugar Association and also help with the development of all of our educational materials and to make sure that they're science-based. I also have with me from our staff team, Ali Switek, who's the Director of Meetings and Education. She attends conferences for us and is the key player in our partnership with FCCLA. So just wanted to give her a shout out. But having science-based teaching tools is essential when it comes to talking about sugar. And as a STEM accredited organization, the Sugar Association provides educational resources for classroom teachers and students and partners with educators to develop lesson plans. So I'm excited to share some new and existing resources that help bring science of real sugar to your classrooms tonight. Um, the Sugar Association is the scientific voice of the U.S. sugar industry, and we represent sugar beet and sugar cane growers, processors, and refiners. So just wanted to introduce ourselves before we dive in, but our goals are, or we make a difference by responsibly supporting scientific research, like about sugar intake trends and things like that with publicly available data, and also share our knowledge to enhance consumer understanding and confidence in the role that sugar plays in a nutritious, balanced, and enjoyable diet. Our goal is that sugar be recognized as a positive part of a balanced diet and that its role in aiding in the enjoyment of a wide range of foods also be acknowledged. As I already mentioned, we are a STEM accredited organization and proud that our educational materials have met these requirements. Before I go any further, we always start a presentation just to answer the question, where does sugar come from? So the sugar we get in from the grocery store comes from two plants grown on farms across the US, sugar beets and sugar cane. Sugar beets are a root crop and they grow in cooler climates, and they are different than the red beets that you would find at the grocery store or in your backyard gardens. They are white in color and they weigh 3 to 5 pounds when they're harvested, so much larger than those red beets. Sugarcane is a very different crop, but produces the same sugar. It's a tropical grass and grows 10 to 20 feet high, and it's a perennial plant, which means it doesn't have to be replanted every year. And these are images of the inside of those two plants. The sugar beets store the sugar in their roots, and the sugar cane stores it in their stalk. So you can see when in these images that where the sugar is stored is a white or golden color. So that's where you get white sugar. Photosynthesis is how those plants make sugar, as I'm sure you are all well aware. And sugar exists naturally in almost every fruit and vegetable and even nuts, but sugar occurs in the greatest quantities in sugar beets and sugar cane. So that is why they make the most efficient choices from which to grow and harvest and extract sugar. The sugar in the US is grown and or refined in 17 states. And you can see the sugar beet farms are located mostly in the north, and the sugarcane is grown in the south. Of the sugar produced in the United States, about 55% of it comes from sugar beets and 45% from sugarcane. This is a simple representation of the process used to extract and purify the sugar from the plants, but essentially after the plants are harvested, the sugar is extracted by smashing the plants or crushing them and cutting them up. And then it's washed, dried, crystallized, or washed, crystallized, spun, and dried before it's packaged. And slight variations in this process produce a variety of sugar. So most often you think of white sugar, which is the process that was on the slide. Brown sugar is white sugar with molasses, which the molasses occurs naturally in sugarcane and sugar beets. But the molasses used to make brown sugar is just from sugarcane. And then variations in crystal size also produce different sugars. So you can get powdered sugar, which is white sugar that's ground to a finer powder, or you have the larger crystals that you think of with that are like sprinkled on top of baked goods. So now that we've done a little bit of quick sugar 101, we're going to dive into some of the resources that we have available. I'm going to do a quick flyover of the different types of resources we have, and then focus in on two of our resources. And so this first slide has a lot of just like sugar basics information. So you can see we offer handouts, offer videos, and we also offer booklets on this topic. These are some related to myths versus facts, some food science, sugar in the diet, and we also offer most of our materials in Spanish as well. We also have toolkits for various age ranges and poster size. We can also have poster size materials of any of these materials if you are interested in those in your classroom. Excuse me. This first resource that we're going to take a little bit of a closer look at is a National Real Sugar Day lesson plan. So this plan was developed by Elizabeth Hagen, who is award-winning FCS teacher, and she's based in Iowa. And we asked her to help us develop a lesson plan to celebrate National Real Sugar Day. National days for food or anything are very popular right now on social media, and I'm sure your students connect with that as well. So this lesson plan is designed for one class period to do just like a big overview of real sugar. So the plants that it comes from, the functions of sugar in cooking and baking, a little bit of sugar history to celebrate National Real Sugar Day. The objectives are to describe the purpose of real sugar in human diets, compare and contrast sugarcane and sugar beets, identify the functions sugar serves in cooking, and prepare a dish and share with a peer to celebrate National Real Sugar Day. So the bell ringer activity for this is focused on the history, designed for you to spread the cards throughout your classroom and have students find the answers for the various points on the timeline. The lecture talks through the slides about sugar, where it's grown, the functions it serves in recipes, and then students get to complete this diagram about to compare and contrast sugar beets and sugar cane, the two plants that real sugar comes from. And of course, the key for these worksheets are included in this lesson plan. For the activity, students select a recipe that uses at least one type of sugar to prepare in their lab groups. And we have this sample provided that actually uses 3 different types of sugar for various reasons. So that I think that one is pretty fun. But then the kids also do a reflection to close it out, to pick apart why those different types of sugar are included and what function they serve in the recipe, whether it's this recipe or others. And then we've included these National Real Sugar Day stickers to mark your dish as celebratory. But National Real Sugar Day is on October 14th, and we'd love to have any of you join us in celebrating in your classrooms or otherwise. The next one I'm going to look at is our field to table STEAM or STEM packet. It's designed for grades 7 to 12, and it was reviewed by a panel of teachers and as well as STEM.org. And it covers math, chemistry, biology, history, art, geography, technology, and nutrition. And it's available in English and Spanish. And you can download it or order hard copies with any of our materials. That is the case. So here's just a quick snapshot of kind of what it looks like when it would come to you in a hard copy. It's a nice folder and includes the teacher key and all of those things. And we have many companion materials to go with this STEM packet. So we have 6 companion videos, and they're each about 2 to 3 minutes in length, and they all include closed captioning for use in your classrooms. And they pair with kind of each section of the STEM packet. Our newest complementary material to this STEM packet is teaching slides. So we just shared this in the spring, and it can be used to pair with the STEM packet, and it covers about probably 3 class periods, depending on the length of time you have to teach, and includes notes to teach from, which is helpful. So I'm going to pick a couple sections of the STEM packet and kind of put the complementary materials next to it so you can see how they work together. And the way I chose which sections to focus on was based on the questions that you all asked in advance or when you registered for the webinar. So there were some questions about culinary teaching tools, and there were some other questions about sugar and moderation and how that works with our materials. So I'm going to give those 2 sections a little bit of attention here. So the black page on the left is what comes in the STEM packet, and the other images on the slide are from the slide or the teaching slides. So we explain the functions of sugar and why, to help students understand why sugar is added to a variety or different foods, and the functional roles in food chart also does a great job of outlining that. And there's all these different foods and there's sugars in them, but why? And this provides the several functions that sugar adds to those products. And in the teaching deck, we also zoom in on a couple foods to further explain and give a little bit more color to why sugar is in them. So in bread, sugar is added for volume and texture because sugar can speed the fermentation in yeast bread, and which gives it a porous structure and a softer crumb. For flavor, it can cut the bitterness of the high fiber breads and making them more palatable. For the color and aroma that sugar adds, um, excuse me, the sugar reacts with the protein in the dough and giving the bread a brown color, which is called the Maillard reaction. And it also extends the shelf life by preventing bacterial growth and keeping bread soft and moist. With sugar and ice cream, um, the it really impacts both the flavor, obviously with the sweetness, and the texture. Because it lowers the freezing point, it prevents large ice crystals from forming, and that impacts how you experience it in your mouth, giving it a smooth, thick, and creamy texture. These these slides are also from the teaching slides, and to kind of take a pause on that, when sugar is removed from a product, several new ingredients take its place, because there is no substitute, no single substitute for both the flavor and the function that sugar provides. And with that in mind, the sweeteners that might replace it, it's always good, just like it's good to know where sugar comes from, it's good to know where they're coming from too. So we have this great, very popular material that's called sweeteners you might find in your foods. And it provides information both about where the sweetener is derived from, the calories it has in comparison to real sugar, its sweetness level, and some notes about how it's produced. I already kind of touched on the variety of sugars and how they're made, but um, the page on the right is from the packet and gives you a little bit more information about molasses, and that is found in both beet and cane, but the beet molasses is too bitter to consume, and so it's used in other products, not for human consumption. But the molasses from sugar cane is what makes brown sugar brown. So it gives you a couple recipes for how to make your own brown sugar, how to make your own powdered sugar, and is one way to see that all sugar really starts from the same spot. Um, and there was another question that was submitted about the one-to-one, or what's the exchange for when you substitute white sugar for brown sugar, or the other way. And they are a one-to-one typically, but with the brown sugar, you're obviously going to get a little bit of that caramely flavor and from the molasses. And it also does add a little more moisture. So you'd want to um, reduce the moisture from another ingredient if you want to keep the bread or muffins or whatever you subbing it for, the same level of moisture. Moving on to the moderation piece with sugar. This page on the left is from the STEM packet, that sugar is a sweet part of a balanced diet. And I'm going to read that opening line just because it's a great introduction to this section, is that you've probably heard how important it is for you to eat a nutritious, balanced diet. Did you know that sugar can make a healthy diet more palatable? Now, that doesn't mean that you should add sugar to everything, and that's not at all what we're saying. We're recognizing that uh, it's about caloric balance, physical activity, and a balanced diet, and as far as getting food from a variety of food groups. Um, but sugar does have a role in a balanced diet. For nutrient delivery, it's an effective tool to promote the consumption of nutrient-dense foods and beverages. As you can see on that lower right slide, we already talked about palatability, and it is a carbohydrate, so it does provide energy when you need it, but certainly shouldn't be the only source of energy. From the slides, we also have some more information and quotes from the most recent dietary guidelines. So this is straight from the guidelines. A healthy dietary pattern limits added sugars to less than 10% of calories per day. Added sugar can help with preservation, contribute to functional attributes such as viscosity, texture, body, color, and browning capability, and or help improve the palatability of some nutrient-dense foods. So the guidelines recognize the function that sugar does play in foods and in a balanced diet. The slides also give a little more color than the STEM packet does into the history of the dietary guidelines. And a lot of people might think that, in 2015, it was the first time that ever that the dietary guidelines said you should limit sugars in your diet. But really, since their inception, they've always, had a focus on moderation when it comes to sugar intake, which is what we believe it should be. The page on the right is from the STEM packet and gives you a little bit look at the nutrition facts label. Added sugars are included on the nutrition facts label, as I'm sure you all know, but gives some tips on how to use that and in the differences between total sugars and added sugars and all of those terms that can be a little bit confusing. The slides also give some more examples of those sugars and different types of sugars and sweeteners and things like that that the packet does not have. So it's a great complement to that. I just wanted to share this slide. This information is in both the slides and the STEM packet. But I think it's a great conversation starter with your students as far as this is the general, average sources of added sugars in the diet. And, when you add up coffee and tea and sugar sweetened beverages, you get to about 35% of added sugars calorie for the normal American from beverages. And I think, especially in high schoolers, it's just a really interesting thing to look at and think about where your added sugars calories are coming from. I also wanted to share this material, which is not actually in the packet or the slides, but it's a brand new materials that is definitely related to added sugars on nutrition facts labels and in a balanced diet. So this just is, like I said, is a brand new material just to help give students or adults alike just a picture of how they're spending their 10%. And it shows that both you can have added sugars in every meal, as many products have added sugars in them. But if you want to have an extra scoop of ice cream, then maybe you should consider how you might save on added sugars throughout the day. One thing that Allie gets asked at conferences that she attends is how to use the resources that we offer outside the classrooms, especially when it comes to student projects. So just like we think knowing where sugar comes from is a basic thing that it's always the best way to start the conversation about sugar or any food product. We have some great tools for students to teach others about where sugar comes from. So we have a coloring book, a simple get to know sugar beet and cane infographic or handout, and then this map that has some facts about sugar and shows where in the United States it is grown. So those are some simple tools. We have other ones on the website as well. But for a student project standpoint, I think those are the simplest to use. I also wanted to share just a little bit about our history of collaboration. We've collaborated with a variety of educator organizations, obviously FCCLA, as we're here tonight, but also National Ag in the Classroom, the Home Baking Association, that hopefully you all are familiar with, LEAD FCS and NEA FCS. So we've partnered on conferences, on webinars, and reviewing lab manuals and things like that with these organizations. So we're very thankful for the relationships that we have, and think they're a great way to share our resources with you all. We've also collaborated with educators, like I shared with the National Real Sugar Day lesson plan. But we have actually 4 new lesson plans that are just about ready to be shared on our website. And these are all from educators that we were connected with, actually mostly through LEAD FCS. And they just had an idea about how, like, either something that they felt like was missing and they wanted a lesson plan on that others might be interested in. So these are their ideas, and we just supported them through that. So we've got one coming on the unit pricing, the different costs of sweeteners, which I thought is really fascinating. And then a real versus fake sweeteners, which is best in terms of its use in baking and other factors. And then cultural food traditions are sweet, which looks at both the different like dessert traditions in various cultures, but also how sugar is used in a variety of ethnic foods. And then the last new plan will be one that's focused purely on types of sugars and the differences between them all. So we're super excited about that, and we will be sharing them with you all, hopefully even as a follow-up to this webinar. We also partner with educators on materials review to make sure that what we're producing works in the classroom. So if you would be interested in doing that, we'd welcome you to reach out to us. Or if you're interested in lesson plan development. But I would like to hear from you all just about how you might use these materials, or if there are other things that you would like developed for classroom use that you think would be beneficial. So let's hear from you, or if you have other questions that I did not answer.
Good afternoon.
Hi.
My name is Mr. Dominic Montgomery from Kingsley High School out of Kingsley, South Carolina. One thing about it, we have a brand new principal at the high school, and what he wants to implement is giving the seniors Kool-Aid. So as a part of the sugar week, because I actually had no idea of it, after I get my kit, I want to do a food lab within my food and nutrition classes, my second about class, of dealing with the different type of sugars. But I'm going to allow them to make Kool-Aid versus like the Kool-Aid with sugar versus the Kool-Aid from Costa Rica. The Kool-Aid rarely have sugar in it, but if you taste it, it tastes like it's full of sugar. But they rarely use sugar in that stuff. So I am definitely going to implement this lesson within my course this year. But I am very intrigued about this, and I do want the information for it.
Yeah. Great. Yeah, that's interesting.
Maria?
Yes.
I think this would also be very beneficial for our FCCLA students to possibly go teach a very short lesson using the coloring books to elementary students.
Yes.
And, we could talk about why they're not supposed to eat a lot of sugar or eat it in moderation, but and also where it comes from.
Yes. And that coloring book, I obviously didn't show all the pages, but it does touch not only on where sugar comes from, but also moderation too.
Right. And I don't think our elementary students really understand where the sugar is coming from.
For sure.
So,
Yep.
thank you for sharing tonight.
Yes, thanks for joining us. And again, I already said it, but all of these materials are free to download or order. So we are happy to send hard copies of anything to you all. And you can order through on our website. There's an order form.
Thank you.
And there's a question in the chat, Maria.
Oh, okay.
It says, I teach a learning challenged high school level foods class. Could something be developed with visual lessons for our non-readers? I realize you have the coloring book, but perhaps something more adult like pictures.
Okay. Yeah, that's helpful. Mrs. Seaman, I would actually love to pick your brain on like what would be most helpful. If you'd be willing to set up a time to connect. Or you could review what we can try and put together. But thank you. I will get your contact information from the participation list.
Great. Any other questions? Feel free to turn on your microphone if you'd like, or if you want to share it in the chat. Lovely that they are always looking for new things within science.
Oh yes, yes, I know. And we do have, we're really trying to develop a lesson that to test the different like sugars and sweeteners in some recipes. And so that is on the docket. But if you again have ideas for specific things that you're looking for or that would be helpful or questions that you'd like to be able to answer through a lesson plan or a lab, let us know. Like I said, we just want to provide what's most helpful or most useful. Oh, and Allie just added the link to our full slew of resources in the chat too. It's also on this, should be on the screen. Well, I know this was shorter than the scheduled time, but I figured it would be great to just get some resources in front of you and give you some extra time back to your evening too. So feel free to reach out to us with any questions. We always love hearing from you, and we'll definitely be following up with more links to these resources and hopefully some new ones as well.
Great. Thank you so much, Maria. Thank you to the Sugar Association for your support. We're all looking forward to celebrating Real Sugar Day next month. So looking forward to that great lesson plan. For all of our attendees, a copy of the recording will be in next week's advisor newsletter on Tuesday. So I hope you all enjoy the long weekend, but be sure to fill out the post-webinar survey. I put the link in the chat, and I'll put another copy of it as well, so you can be entered to win that gift card, but also that helps us plan for future webinars. If there's topics that you're looking for or more information like this that you want to hear from, that really helps us. So if
Absolutely.
you have any additional questions, we'll stay on for a couple more minutes if you want to turn on your microphone or chat. But other than that, that's everything that we have for tonight. And thank you again for spending your afternoon with us, and have a great weekend. Thank you.
Yes, thank you all. Thanks, Abby, for hosting us.
Hi, this is Barbara.
Yes.
I had the comment about the learning disabled foods class that I have. So I dropped
Yes.
my email address in your chat, so it's there.
I copied it already.
Yeah, I've been doing
Yes.
I've been doing this for 40 years, and these are the type of things that have been lacking in our field forever.
Yeah.
So it was such a great thing to see on here this evening. I think the fact that the resources are free in this time that, you know, our budgets are so tight. I wrote all 4 of my FCS teachers while you were on, telling them to like take a look, see what they want. We'll put in one order because we wouldn't go over the 500 limit with me just putting it in for everybody. This was great.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thanks so
Yeah.
much for taking the time and for
Absolutely.
those comments that.
Yeah, and when you're ready to talk, you know, kind of what I find with the learning disabled population is that they don't have things that have a real representation of what they look like in
Mhm.
the things that they can still understand. They're very childish. And I'm
Yeah.
trying to work. I know in my retirement, that's what I'm going to do, is work on that for that field. So I'd love to work with you on it.
Yeah, that would be great. And if you have examples, you can share, but I will email you. And we
Okay,
can
sounds good.
connect.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye now.